What can I say?
We're going to move on. That's our game, I'd Swallow That. This week, we had a great opportunity here at It's Happening Out to talk to the iconic writer and director of Sordid Lives, Del Shores. And we want to show you just a segment of what we did with Del Shores. Watch this. Good evening, America. It's Al at It's Happening Out, and we have a special interview tonight coming from Wilton Manors, Florida. Of course, the incomparable Del Shores. Good evening, Del.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Thank you very much for being with us. As everyone in America knows, he's quite an accomplished actor and writer and director, and very famous for his association and creation of Sordid Lives. Sordid Lives is iconic today, but is it rewarding to you that as time goes on, it's even going to be more important in terms of an iconic representation of American family and culture?
You know what? Sordid Lives started being gravy a long time ago. I mean, honestly, it started as a play. We did this little tiny movie. We had no idea what we were doing, and at that time, we certainly didn't have a plan of distribution, and that it is truly an example of word of mouth. It played, well, right here in Fort Lauderdale for a year at the Gateway. It played in Palm Springs for 96 weeks. And because these two cities are big tourists, people come in here, they were saying, oh, we got something you got to see.
Wow.
You know, it became our baby. And Palm Springs especially, I mean, people would, by the time the DVD came out 3 years later, it just flew off the shelf because everybody knew about Sordid Lives.
What was the inspiration behind it?
Well, the kernels that started it were my therapy sessions about coming out and my relationship with my mom. I talk about that in 6 Characters in Search of a Play, that Latrell is my mother, Ty was me, and I just stole my Aunt Sissy and I stole my Aunt Rita, and I just started putting, and I knew Leslie Jordan, and I called him and I said, I have this idea that you're this institutionalized drag queen. He said, oh honey, I don't do drag.
I'm not that person.
He says, in public, I don't do that I just do drag privately.
I can hear the voice ringing in my head. That's how iconic he is at doing it.
So I read him. I called him after I'd finished that section, which was called The Dehomosexualization of Brother Boy. I read it to him and he goes, I'm in.
Yeah.
And we had the same manager at the time, and she told him, this is going to ruin your career. And look what happened.
Is she still his manager?
No,
okay.
Nor mine.
Good choice. One of the things that fascinates me about Sordid Lives is I read a tweet that you did that said,
those tweets can get you in trouble.
Yes, they can. Yeah. That's right. That said that it is not a gay story, but a family story. And that being the case, Brother Boy, and it's a sub-story of gay. Why is it so iconic then in the gay community? What was it that made the gay community go, this is me?
First of all, a lot of people identify with Ty and Latrell and that family, and then Brother Boy is just so campy and fun, you know, and then you scratch a little deeper and there's a lot of tragedy there of people who just wanted to put him away. But honestly, it is about family, and I think that one of the reasons it became so successful, first of all, we were in so many gay film festivals, and the gays took it to their families. It was a safe enough, you know, you can't take queers folk and say, hey mama, watch this with me.
Watch
you know,
the rings.
But you could, listen, you know, oh, no mama. You know, there's like a couple of moments where you know, when Rosemary, Dr. Eve takes off her blouse, maybe, and the boys walk out naked. But by that time, people they've been seduced by the characters.
Seduced, that's a great way to say it. We shoot him in the head, Wardell. That's a funny line. We invite all of America to tune in next week, and you're going to see the full Del Shores interview. He talks about Stonewall. He talks about the importance of drag queens in America. He talks about his writing on Queer as Folk, and he wrote the iconic line about of saying, "Oh, we have to hurry up because It's 9-inch Night at Babylon, and he talks about his Southern Baptist and religious upbringing. He was amazing. Talks about his legacy, which was beautiful.
Yeah.
What do y'all think about Del Shores?
I like I said before, when we found out that he was going to be on the show, he's an icon, and I really look up to him as far as his writing. Sordid Lives was ahead of its time, honestly. It seems like it's just, it's funny, it's silly, it's making fun of the South. But Brother Boy was a representative, to me, of the stigma of gender fluidity and of drag in general. And it was the ironic point of the whole movie, I think, was that all of the family members, Brother Boy was the sane one, let's be honest. And he was locked up, and just the hypocrisy there is really...
It's very funny, because when you watch the interview next week, Del Shores, having looked at the show, he referenced virtually all of you, because he talked about the characters in his Southern Baptist upbringing in Texas, which kind of represented Napoleon. He talked about drag queens. He talked about gender fluidity. He talked about log cabin Republicans. And I thought it was really interesting because he was so self-aware, he made sure he touched all of you in the interview, which I thought was beautiful.
Well, I think, for me, it's amazing how somebody can do something and make such an impact, and they don't even realize the impact that they make. My friend, dearly departed Wanda, a friend of mine that had died, a drag queen, that had died in Tampa and made national news. There's two movies that I say that were our movies. It was The Color Purple and Sordid Lives.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And that movie, she used to play that character in her shows. Brother Boy, she was obsessed with that movie, and she would harass me almost nightly when she would stay at my house. We would watch the movie over and over and over and over again.
That's beautiful.
But it's something that really ties me to her memory, and he will never know the impact and the things that he's done that means so much to so many people. So I really wish that we actually had him on the show, and maybe one day we'll have an opportunity.
He's promised to come back. We couldn't work it out in terms of the Thursday night, but he's promised to come back because he's in South Florida frequently.
I really hope so.
Interestingly enough, I apologize to interrupt, but interestingly enough, all of you will be, you will respond beautifully, especially you, to your point of the tribute that you just made to Wanda. And Kurt King, frankly, who owns Hamburger Mary's, of what he says about how drag queens are disrespected in 2018 and how it should stop and why. Watch the interview. It's beautiful what he says. Sorry.
Well, I don't know what to say now that people seem to think that I'm some Southern Baptist and can just jump in and say that. But I also had a tribute to him because it was the first time that I had ever watched Queer as Folk, and that line came up, the one that you mentioned before. It was the first time I'd seen the show. I was 15, and it was what resulted in my first kiss with a boy. I went outside, I started crying because it reminded me of my mom who might have had meningitis. And he came out, he let his feelings be heard, he decided to open himself up because of the words that were said in that episode. And I had my first kiss with someone that was a guy because of that. So
that's really beautiful.
Literally, it was...
And funny, because you haven't seen the interview yet, you'll see it next week. He talks about Sordid Lives being an introduction for gay people to their family, that it's really not a gay story, it's a family story. And he contrasted that in the interview to Queer as Folk. And he said Queer as Folk is iconic, but he said, he talked about it instantly. How about the opening scene of the first episode of the rimming episode? Of the rimming scene.
I need to rewatch
and
this.
you can't see that, and that's what I thought about when you...
That's not what I saw. I saw some I love you, 9 inches, I'm going to get in on that, a kiss, make out, mouth action. I did not hear rimming or see any kind of fun.
It's there in the first episode.
Oh, man.
Del Shores, next week on It's Happening on You.